Of all the comic book movies that are being released in 2011, Thor was the one I was looking forward to the most. Directed by one of my favorite actor-directors and starring an impressive cast, I was eager to see what they would do with this character. Now I should say I haven't ever been a big comic book reader, outside of a few exceptions, such as Watchmen, so I wasn't worried about accuracy to the original sources in the case of Thor. Basically, the story is about a young, hot-blooded, arrogant warrior named Thor, whose father is Odin, ruler of the realm of Asgard. Although Thor is the heir to the throne, he has a brother named Loki, who's next in line after Thor. After we see Thor and his companions recklessly start a war with the frost giants, Odin furiously banishes Thor to Earth, condemning him to live as a human until he has mended his ways. In a sign of his wise foresight, Odin also throws Thor's hammer down to Earth, inciting that only one who is worthy will be able to wield the hammer. Meanwhile, we get Jane Foster, a young scientist who's striving for a breakthrough studying the universe and the possibility of other worlds. She's aided by an old mentor played by Stellan Skarsgård, as well as a free-spirited friend played by Kat Dennings. They bump into Thor just as he arrives on Earth, and hilarity ensues as Thor finds out about living in our world. Oh, that's another thing about the movie. Rather than portraying these beings as immortal gods from Norse mythology, they are instead portrayed as alien beings of another dimension who were once worshipped as gods when they've last visited Earth. There is a sort of transporter that controls the travel between different dimensions, guarded by Heimdall, the gatekeeper. Some other characters include Thor's posse, which features 3 war buddies and a strong lady warrior named Sif. Oh, and coming from the Iron Man franchise, there's Clark Gregg playing Agent Coulson, who finds the hammer of Thor embedded in the earth. The movie was directed by Kenneth Branagh, that master of theater and film, who brought some of the best Shakespearean adaptations to life, and gave us several other great movies. His being chosen as the director was perhaps the best move they could have done for this kind of story. Thanks to this story and the imaginative special effects, Thor demands parallels to Shakespeare and Lord of the Rings simultaneously. We get glorious looks at Asgard, the Frost Giants' world, and the action scenes work well. As to whether the 3D works, I really don't know. I didn't watch the movie in 3D, so I have nothing to say on that topic. The cast itself is filled with well-known actors and up-and-coming young stars. Thor himself is played by Australian actor Chris Hemsworth, and my god, but he completely captured that role. I hope Hemsworth goes far as an actor, because he pulled off the role that seemingly more than any other Marvel character is a huge risk to play correctly. And Hemsworth pulls it off. He looks the part, feels the part, and convinces us that he is a godlike being of great power without going too over the top. His father is played by classic actor Anthony Hopkins. And really, there's not much to say about Hopkins that hasn't already been said. He does his job as the strict father and wise ruler. Nothing special for Hopkins, just another good performance. Loki is played by Tom Hiddleston, and this is where Branagh's influence shines the most. Hiddleston has worked with Branagh multiple times both on the screen and on the stage, which convinced Branagh to cast him in this film. The character of Loki had way more depth than I was expecting, and Hiddleston had a lot to do in a short time. The role of Loki demands a very cunning nature, just barely hidden under a calm exterior. Yes, there are moments of very emotional outbursts from all 3 of these characters, but Branagh just gives it all a theatrical feel that would be out of place in any other Marvel movie. The rest of the Asgardians do okay jobs, but ultimately don't have much to do, apart from Idris Elba's Heimdall, who has some great moments in his small appearances. As for the human characters, Natalie Portman is the most prominent, combining her independence through her research and her slow falling in love with Thor. Stellan Skarsgård is interesting but unimportant. Kat Dennings tries her best with what little she gets, but ultimately feels out of place. If there is one thing wrong with this film, though, it's that it doesn't really feel like a standalone movie at all. The movie is just one in a grand scheme of movies to build up towards Marvel's take on the Avengers. The movie has several connections to other movies released, whether it's the appearance of Agent Coulson, references to Tony Stark, a cameo from Hawkeye, or the after-credits scene. The movie is a build-up, an introduction to one of the characters that will make up the Avengers. It's certainly a great build-up, but it takes away some of the atmosphere that Branagh gave it. Still, it's a good movie. Branagh's longtime composer, Patrick Doyle, provides an epic soundtrack that reminded me a little bit of The Dark Knight. The action scenes are fun and exciting, the performances work very well, especially from the characters who matter the most. All in all, I'm really glad Branagh got the chance to do this movie, as well as get real talent to participate. Comic book movies have had a real jump in quality as of late, and I'm glad that this movie continues that upward strive.